Hey! What's up, everybody? Thursday, August 15th. Uh-oh, bad jack on a guitar. What a great way to start the show. Might have switched guitars right away. Hey, how are you guys? This is my old green Strat from the 80s, the old Yoshino factory. I can't believe it. I just sat here and played it for 20 minutes. Too bad we're not going to play this guitar today. This is a funny way. But I want to play it. It sounds so good, but I'm going to have to fix the jack. Got a loose wire. This is the one Ron Ellis made me a bespoke set of pickups for. And I really want you guys to hear it. But the jack isn't happy. So I'll fix that and we'll play it next week. In the meantime, let's play another guitar. Anyway, so it's Thursday, August 15th. And there's all kinds of stuff going on in the world. I have a 65 Empire here, another one that's been modded. I think it turned out great. It's for sale to fund our little project. So hang tight. Let me switch guitars and then we'll hang out and talk. Give a few minutes for people to jump on as well. I like the first 10 or 15 minutes just to be cash. I got the hiccups. I'm sorry. So if you're watching the recording, go ahead and fast forward a little bit because the first part is always a little mellow. But I thought I would talk about. I was going to show off this really cool guitar. I can't believe the jack is messing up. Poopy, poopy, poopy. Anyway, there's some viewers showing up. I see here, no one in the comments yet, but I see people logging in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Dan Boul. You can call me Murray. And we're going to play a little guitar. We're going to talk. And, you know, the world is just a crazy place right now. So I thought I'd just kind of take the restrictions. John Dotson, hey, bud, how are you? Good to see you, man. So when you see me looking over here, I'm reading the chat window. I can't believe this messed up right away. I've been sitting here playing this guitar for about 10 minutes or so, warming up my hands. And then all of a sudden the jack goes, literally the second I hit this go live button, the jack on the guitar went squirrely. Bummer. Okay, let me grab a different, I'll just grab another Strat because Strat was sounding so good. Hold on. I got my white Strat that you guys also know so well. So, that green Strat, Ron Ellis had it for a long time. I went down to see Ron in San Diego before COVID. And, you know, the guitar had some issues. Yeah, it's an old guitar. I think it's 1986 is when I bought it. I bought it at Guitar Center on Sunset, back when Guitar Center on Sunset was the coolest music store on earth. Let me give this thing a quick tune. This one stays in tune really well. It has the Callahan bridge set on it, which does make the guitar sound different. But I'm a 5-spring guy on Strats. That also helps them stay in tune. I don't use the bar on a Strat very much, so. All right, let's see how this does now. All right. Hey, Raymond Colby, Randy Krath, how are you, buddy? You're looking good too, my friend. Part of the reason, like, when I was playing this other Empire that we sold, by the way, thank you. This is another one that's modified. I kind of heard some sounds from the 90s in there that woke up some DNA memory. Strat, let me go middle second position here to cut the noise. I got lights on. My house is 80 years old. So the wiring's kind of noisy. But I heard some 90s sounds that have been on my mind ever since because it sounded good to me. It sounded really good. Like I was really enjoying it. But it was that sort of Brendan O'Brien records, you know. don't know if you guys are hip to Stone Temple Pilots, but they're the craziest chord progressions in the world. And I hadn't played that song, I think, since the 90s. But I remember I had to go, Yorn, hey, bud. Can't watch the whole show. Watch the recording later. Okay, man. Thanks for dropping by. Good to see you. I hope you're well. I love when our Scandinavian brothers show up here. But Interstate Love Song, do you guys know that? I know I'm not going to do this. I'm going to get in trouble for doing this, but it's like C minor 7 to G major 7, B minor 6 diminished, B flat diminished, A9. So it's E, F sharp minor, and then back to first inversion E, or second inversion E. It's a great chord progression, right? And then you go into the chorus. Anyway, the mods we did on this amp, I started hearing those sounds. And I've been enjoying it because, the early 90s, that whole era of music, like I thought grunge was great because I was a victim of glam shit, strip metal, which was fun. I was here playing on the Sunset Strip in the 80s. And I got to confess, the eyeshadow spandex guys were not my thing. Some of them were fun. They were lighthearted. They're kind of cool, good entertainers. But as far as the music goes, it wasn't bad. I'm not saying I hate it or I dislike it. Just didn't resonate with me that much. But this producer guy, who's actually a friend of mine from Atlanta, we're really good friends, more acquaintances than friends. But I like to call him a friend because every interaction I had with him was really nice. He was kind of one of those guys. When I moved to Atlanta in '87, after graduating from music school out here, I met this guy who was an engineer in Atlanta named Brendan O'Brien. And he was doing work like crazy. He worked in every studio in town. But he always kind of had a little deal going where if you would kind of pay him on, a little cash and bring some pizza. You paid for the tape. This is how long ago it was tape, right? He would do demo tapes for you. It was kind of his little side hustle. And the understanding was if you hit, you would take him along with you because he helps you get where you are. So he did a demo tape for friends of mine's band and my band. I have one of them right here. This was a band that Peter Stroud was in called Caesar Speaks. And this is Brendan O'Brien in like 1987. I don't have a cassette player anymore. But yeah, Peter Stroud. I recognize his handwriting. Caesar Speaks, and then the other side was Tommy Rivers with Chris Edmonds. This is all stuff... class of 86. Cool. I was class of 87, Raymond. We probably bumped into each other in the hall. I was the guy with the long hair and the guitar with the Floyd Rose on it. Does that narrow it down for you? Anyway, Brendan was a really nice guy. And I met him when I was there. My mom's family are O'Briens. So maybe I felt some sort of, connection with him. But he's a super nice guy. Anyway, the band that he did that launched him was the Black Crowes. And as some of you know, when my band broke up, Johnny Colt, the bass player, hey, Tom, you're in Studio B with Joe. Hey, what's happening? Give Joe a big hug. Tell him I love him. That's nice. There's Tom Sorowski. Speaking of Brendan O'Brien, Tom Sorowski's Brendan's engineer. But anyway, Brendan started doing records with bands you may have heard of. Like Stone Temple Pilots. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Good to see you, Tom. I like the new haircut, man. It looks good. So, Stone Temple Pilots, Rage Against the Machine, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden. I don't know about you guys, but those are some of the best sounding guitar records I've ever heard. And Brendan was doing those back then with an engineer named Nick Didia, and then later on with Tom Sorowski, who's on here right now. Tom and I have a little business venture together. We're also really good friends because Brendan started buying amps from us 20 years ago when we started making them. And as far as I know, he still uses them. It's really nice. So anyway, I heard a sound out of this amp that just reminded me of those records. I don't know why. I just had something. So I've been sitting around for a whole week reminiscing about those great records from the 90s. And I heard some sounds in this that did it for me. Anyway, but I was just, It's really cool stuff. I think that's the right chord, but cool sounds. I dig it. Just with a Strat. I'm not even pushing it with a high output guitar. These pickups are Jason Lawler's Dirty Blondes, which are, I don't think they're very hot. They may be slightly hotter than normal. I think they have a lot of mid-range content. I'm going through the aux box right now, Randy. Yes, that is correct. Yep. I'm just on the setting that is the first one, which is the Marshall 412, which for me is by far the best. Hey, TJ Overcast. How are you, buddy? How's things in Montana? Good to see you. Tom, what are you and Joe doing in Studio B? I just got a text from your studio manager there this morning about a book she wrote. Kind of that sound. Tom, maybe you can confirm what they were recording with back then. I know Brendan liked a lot of those Silver Jubilee amps at the time. Old Marshalls, either way, but I think he was digging some of the Marshalls at the time. But also a lot of it is the engineer. I've sat with Tom in the studio and mic'd up an amp, and he laughs and goes, "Here, let me do it." And he'll just take two SM57s running through, Neve preamp. And holy shit, it sounds amazing. Like crazy good. He's got the touch. I do not. I'm okay at it. He's an expert. And I think a lot of that he learned from Brendan. I remember when I first met Brendan, he was doing a lot of recording in Atlanta everywhere. Every studio in town. And even at people's living rooms. The first time I went, he was in a living room somewhere. I kind of almost remember the song too. And he was laying on the ground with headphones, taking a microphone and going doot, 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 and moving it just millimeters. I remember going, what's he doing? He's listening for the hiss. He could listen to the hiss of the amp through headphones and understand that the mics were placed correctly somehow. I've heard lots of people say they do that and give completely different explanations of what they're listening for. But I watched him do it and then heard the guitar sound, went, wow, Jesus Christ, it sounds good. This tape, this tape of Peter's did with Brendan however many years ago, decades ago. It's really cool. give you an idea of how good the guy was. So anyway, I'm going through a renaissance, or as they say, renaissance. Listening to those records. So if you haven't listened to those records in a while, you know, the Soundgarden song that's in 5. If I could only sing like Chris. Kind of that sound on the Empire here on Channel 3 made me think of it. And if you guys haven't seen it, Brendan was finally interviewed. He was kind of I wouldn't call him a hermit, but he was he still is, a very private person. And there's another guy from Atlanta named Rick Beato who's getting a lot of traction now on the internet. He's got a really nice weekly show where he does interviews with, I don't know how he's scoring them, but he's getting the best interviews. He's got really nice lighting and it looks really nice. And he got Brendan to agree to an interview, and it's almost 3 hours long. So you should check it out. The guy is one of the biggest producers in the history of rock and roll, and he's kept himself deliberately low profile. I think since he hasn't been making records for a while, he still works like writing songs and stuff, I think, from what I understand. But Rick Beato, am I not saying it right? Randy Kratz says, I always use 57s. Yeah. You know, I do the same thing, and I just can't make it sound as good as Tom. I know it looks like Beto, but I thought it was pronounced Beato. Am I wrong? I don't know. He's from Atlanta. I never met him when I lived in Atlanta. I didn't live there that long. I only lived there for a few years. And when I was there, I was playing music. So I wasn't in town a whole lot. Rick is from around these parts. Where are you from, Doug Robert? I've never met him. I like his material. Yeah, he does a good job of interviewing. It's pretty nice. It's not like fanboyish. A lot of these guys that do shows, Beato. Isn't that what I said? What did I say? I thought I said Beato. Anyway, doesn't matter. Rick's fantastic. And we did like an almost 3-hour interview with Brendan. And they talk about all kinds of stuff, all kinds of artists. Rochester, New York. Oh, okay. I thought I heard him say he lived in Atlanta. Maybe he just moved there or something. A lot of music guys in Atlanta still. I was there at kind of the peak of the whole Atlanta thing. So I got really far away from the Sunset Strip. I moved there in 1987 when the Sunset Strip was and I ran out of blue eyeshadow, so I had to move. I moved to Atlanta, and it was the Georgia Satellites, Jason and the Scorchers, B-52s, Driving and Crying, a lot of really great bands. And then, of course, you know, the Crows happened. And then right after all that happened, like Seattle happened and just stole the thunder. He's currently in Atlanta. I don't know how long he's been there. Yeah, okay. I just heard him say it, so I'm sorry. I'm not trying to misrepresent anything. Yeah, is that right? Connecticut? Yeah, it could be. Anyway, we'll find out. Maybe we can Google it while we're here on the show. Anyway, regardless of my mistakes, it's a really great interview with Brendan. And he's always been really private. Even like, you know, I've done business with him now for 20 years. And we're sharing. Oh, that's all good. Oh, I'm fine. Don't worry. I've done business with him for 20 years, and he's always been very private. You know, he's a private dude, which is totally cool. You can respect that for days, right? But I got those chords on my mind. So what he's doing is going. But he's got to voice chords to make it work. So it's a suspended major 7, right? just the middle 4 strings. And then to B diminished minor 6. And then a B flat diminished. Whoops. And then an A9. So in the root, you go. There you go. I think it's really cool. All right, Mark Saulnier says, for the producer series, is it simply tubes that change the flavor of the sound, or are there circuit differences? There's circuit differences and transformer differences. That's a good question. Yeah, so the producer EL34 and 6L6 have very different output transformers. And then there's some mild circuit differences. I think there's 2 or 3 caps especially that are different. What we're trying to do is maximize the tubes that are in there. So like a pair of 6L6s and a pair of EL34s have a different impedance. So the primary on the output transformer has a matching impedance for those tubes. And if I remember correctly, a pair of 6L6s is like 6.6K and a pair of EL34s is 4. Or am I thinking of EL84s? Anyway, they're about 20% difference. So when you do that, it really maximizes the tube. You get the best of the tube because it's working correctly. And then because of that, there's a few different caps. I know in the producer 6L6, there's places where we use oil caps instead of, polystyrene caps. Those have really different characters. Like an oil cap really sounds vintagey, tweed fender kind of sound, deep fender sound. Whereas the polystyrene and polyester caps are like mustard caps, British sounding stuff. So there's some differences there. This is a good question right here. Thank you. Raymond Colby says, really love your amps. Thank you. What is the short form description of the mod on the Empire? It's really only a few things. It's one of those, to be honest with you, we stole it from Jose Arredondo. There's a monster cap we put in there in a certain place, and it allows frequency response way beyond the frequency response of the tubes, but it's like implied bass. And so it gives it big shoulders and makes the amp grunt without changing much. I have the bass turned down on here quite a bit right now because in my headphones it sounds kind of thick. And then what else? That was the main thing, that huge cap. There's a couple resistor values that we changed to match more like the Eddie Van Halen amp. Which is kind of universal. It works on anything because this amp is 6V6s, right? This is not EL34s. This is a 22 watt amp with a master voltage on it. So you can run it down to about 5 watts and the tubes still act pretty normal. Below that, it gets a little bit distortion pedal sounding because there's no electricity going through the tubes. So they don't have any dynamic range. There's, when you lower the voltage on the amp, you're lowering the range of what the tube can do. Right? It does drop the volume, and that is the goal. And Kjell Arne Clausen, greetings from Stockholm. Hey, thank you, sir. Nice to see you. Welcome. We get lots of Scandinavians here. I love it. I appreciate you guys showing up. It's very nice. I know it's about dinner time over there, too, so maybe you just finished dinner and you're having a beer. You want to hang out with some nerds in the United States. Anyway, Raymond, does that answer your question? I mean, I can tell you where it is if you want. You can do it on your own amp. It's not a big deal. But it gives it a lot of... Oh, right. It was right next to Ernie. He'll tell you. He was proud of it. It should be. Much like yourself, brilliant. Oh, well, man, that's really nice. Thank you, dude. I don't know how to respond to that. That's really sweet. Yeah, so a lot of the Jose Arredondo mods are really simple. They're just usually two or three components. And he was just really good at figuring out where they needed to go. You know, and guys charge $500 to do that for you. Um, some of them are bigger, you know, but none of them are more than about 20, 30 minutes of work. Um, and about maybe $20 in parts at most. This mod for us, $6 in parts, $7 in parts, something like that. Not a big deal. And we use really high quality components, as you know. I could do it for cheaper. I could do it for a couple bucks if I wanted to. Let's see. What is this? Is hum common in a producer EL34 version? No, not really. You might have a tube that's unhappy. Does it follow? Does it go everywhere? If you plug it in different places in your house, does it still hum? There's lots of ways to chase down hum. Usually it's tubes that are not biasing correctly or a preamp tube that's going bad. How long have you had your producer, BJ? Anyway, it's fixable. Don't worry. It's no problem. We did another, speaking of that, we changed one of the filter caps in the preamp. Not the main filters for the whole amp, but the preamp filtering, we doubled one of them. Let's go back down to the middle channel. Doug Robert, ask Rick where he learned guitar. He'll tell you. It was right next to the Erie Canal. Oh, I think I heard him say that now that you mention that. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, he's a really good player. Great piano player. Apparently understands music theory really, really well. Yeah, I know Pete Thorne really well, Raymond. I'm a buddy of Peter Stroud's too. No, I know Pete. We used to hire him to do demo videos for our pedals. I used to room with him when I was doing my show over at Tone Merchants in North Hollywood. His studio was in there too. We were roommates. Hey, Lars Steinstedt, how are you, bud? Into doing Class A amps in the zone segment of his YouTube. He mentioned the modified London and likes it. Oh, cool. Yeah, Pete's a really nice guy. Ridiculous guitar player, isn't he? He's so good. Let's see here. BJ, I've had it for about 7 years, but I've never changed the tubes. I'll look into it. I've tried different guitars and pickups to minimize it as well. Still love the sound. Yeah. You might just want to try a new pair of EL34s. And a producer, any EL34 sound really good. So, mess around with it. Play with it. You know, if you want to invest in NOS tubes, which are expensive, but I think it's money really well spent on a producer, because at the low voltage and high current, those tubes are going to last for 50 years. So you had a pair of brand new production tubes. I don't know how to say it in English. There's a Latin word for it. How do you say it? Shit. I don't know how to say it in English. But these tubes are, you too, Dub. Take care, man. Have a good day, buddy. Thanks for dropping by. We'll see you soon, I hope. Yeah, so, new production tubes are really just nothing compared to old tubes. I'll be honest with you. You can make them sound good. You can't make them sound like old tubes. And you definitely, how did you decide on the red coat speaker? I don't have a red coat speaker in that amp. Maybe you bought one that someone uses. I used a G12H30 Celestion. So you might have bought one that's been changed. Anyway, if you want to invest in NOS tubes, it's money really well spent. It's the last set of tubes you'll ever need for that amp. And it will sound better. You know, those old tubes, they just have something to them. I don't know what the right adjective is for it, but they're just more pleasing to the ear. To me, because I grew up hearing records made in the 60s, 70s, and 80s that were all using those tubes. And so to me, they sound more correct. But they do cost money. A good pair of EL34s costs you $200-300, but it's cheaper than buying. What brand would I suggest? Well, for new production, JJ's sound really good. I think the tubes we put in there originally were a special tube run that were a copy. We bought them from the tube vendor in Europe. Jeez, I'm blanking. It's been so long. We made that amp in 2011. What's one of the big tube vendors in Europe? I'm blanking. Anyway, if you want to go with old tubes, it really is just a budget thing. Any old EL34 is going to sound great. Mojo. Yeah, that's right. So the Primo EL34s, in my mind, are a toss-up between Mullards and Telefunkens. I personally like Telefunkens a little better. Not Svetlana. It was a tube vendor, not a tube manufacturer. Gosh darn it. Their color was like orange. Their logo was orange. They didn't actually make tubes, but people thought they did. They spec'd a lot of tubes. They bought a bunch of tubes and sold the good ones. But there's a special tube run from a Chinese company that was doing a special tube run copy of a 59 General Electric. Oh no, that's not right. That's the 6L6, not Groove Tubes. Groove Tubes is here. I'm getting mixed up. So the EL34s, I think we just used Electro Harmonics or a Chinese one. It was really good. They're great. Modern production. Anyway, back to what would I suggest? Groove Tubes logo. Yeah, Groove Tubes was here in the Valley in Los Angeles. These guys were European. I think they're German. So BJ, honestly, I have a lot of experience with old tubes. All of my personal amps have old tubes in them. And they just last forever. Like my 50-watt Marshall still has a pair of Mullards in it I bought in 1988. And if I put them on a tube tester, they're going to read 85%. Which is more than any new modern tube will read. The best production modern tube won't read 85%. You get about 70% reading on it. So it's really, you're right. It was orange. That's right. But it's really, I think back then I paid $80 for those tubes, and my friends thought I was out of my freaking mind because you could buy really good tubes for like $8 back then in 1988. You could buy nice tubes, for $8 or $10. $20 for a pair, $25 for a pair. And I think I paid $80. And my friends thought I was smoking crack. It was the 80s. You smoking crack, boy. So it's really a good investment. But you have to have the money to spend it. So if you don't worry about it. But I like JJ. To me, makes really reliable tubes. I think they sound good. Sometimes they can be a little bright. So you roll the treble back or the presence back on the amp a little bit. This amp has JJ 6V6s in it, and they sound great. They sound really good. There's some other 6V6s on the market that don't sound that good. But I think your choices are just Electro Harmonics. Those Mullards that they sell, those are Electro Harmonics tubes. They're not Mullards. If you look at them, if you look at the bottle, they're just their Electro Harmonics tubes that test really well. They license the Mullard. Boy, I got hiccups. Sorry. They license the Mullard logo. George Lee, yes, Amprex from Holland are fantastic. That factory in Holland was also a subcontractor for Mullard. So you'll see some Mullards from the Holland factory that are killer. I personally like Blackburn Mullards XF2s. Those are my favorites. I will put that in the comments here so you can see it, because sometimes it doesn't sound correct. Mullard, I can't see because everything's in the way. XF2s from the Blackburn factory. I think are, like, to me, some of the best sounding tubes ever. Now, the Mullards have that classic Marshall sound, right? You know, that kind of that notched mid range. um, oh, that's a nice. Thank you, BJ. Whereas the Telefunken is a little more full range. It's got a little more bottom end. It's got a little more treble. Less of a mid range punch that Mullards have. They're both fantastic. I'm not going to say one's better than the other. They're just a little different. But I think they're both the same quality, and they'll also last in a producer, because the B plus on that amp's like nothing, 280 volts or something, 260 volts. They'll last literally for 50 years. That's just ridiculous. You know, there's no stress on those tubes at all. Plus, we're flooding them with current, which makes the tube very happy. It takes all the stress off of it, which is the reason for the season with the producer. And that's what we want to carry on into our whole, like, hey, Mike Bledsoe, what's up, man? What's your opinion on 5881 and 6550 tubes? 5881s, I think, are really nice. And yeah, like you're saying, they do break up. The 6550s for me are not my favorite. And I hesitate to use Jimi Hendrix as an example, because he could play through anything and it sounded perfect. If Jimi Hendrix would have been playing Silvertone suitcase amps from Sears, we would all be chasing that sound now, because Jimi Hendrix, if you don't know this, let me just tell you, Jimi Hendrix was magic. And you don't see magic come along very much in your lifetime. I actually don't believe in magic. Jimi Hendrix was magic. The dude was magic, absolute magic. So I was just watching Hendrix playing Spanish Castle Magic this morning. Might have been your video. Was it your video, Mike? I don't know. It was a live performance. He's playing like great. Guitar was out of tune. Who cares? Sounded so freaking good. But I like 5881s. They do break up really nice. They're the top end is a little subdued on them. So if you have an amp that's really bright, or you're playing a guitar that's really bright a lot, 5881 is a great choice. And they'll bias up usually in any EL34 or 6L6 amp. You can bias them up fine. I like them. Vintage one. Tongue saws, to me, make the best 5881s. If you can find a tongue saw 5881, stick them in a, Fender Pro or Super or Bassman, man, they sound good. They sound really good. Really nice. Let's see, George. What do we got here? Not too many tube manufacturers around anymore. China, yeah. So that's right. So you've got JJ, which is in the Czech Republic. The Slovak company was called EI, and they made really good tubes. They were on the old Telefunken machinery. I actually have a pair of EI EL84s, which sounds like I'm singing Old MacDonald, EI EL84. I bought a match quad. I think this is 20 odd years ago, and I used two of them in a London or a Soho or an Elvis or something like that. And I still have this match pair. They're just sitting around. If anybody would like them, I'll sell them to you. They're ridiculously good tubes. They're basically Telefunkens. They sound killer. So yeah, you've got that, and you've got China. And you have Electro-Harmonix in Russia. And that's about it. In all fairness, the Chinese tubes are getting a lot better. They've improved. Like when we started 65 in 2002, 2003, the Chinese tubes were a joke. I mean, you couldn't use them. They wouldn't last. They weren't predictable. They weren't consistent. To get 15 good sets of tubes, I would have to buy 50 and then throw the rest of the shit away. I mean, it was just awful. It's not like that anymore. They're doing good work. So they're out there. But yeah, that's my story. Does Japan still make tubes? Not as far as I know, George. I'm going to start showing these comments because we're on Facebook and we're on YouTube on 2 channels, and I think we're on LinkedIn as well. And people aren't seeing the comments cross-platform. I'm not putting every comment up, but. So BJ Hansen, I forgot. I don't know if I shared this comment with everybody. It's really nice. I appreciate it. I said, I fell in love with the producer when I saw it being used by Ed Roland in the White Rabbit album for Collective Soul. Yeah, Ed's great. Ed's such a nice guy. I never really met him. I dealt with him. Peter, of course, is really good friends with him. And that's how we got hooked up. And those Collective Soul records are good. They sound nice, right? I think the first couple he produced in his garage or something. I mean, really homebrew, and they sound great. It's really cool. So anyway, man, we've already burned 40 minutes. 40 minutes, man. Let's go down to the clean channel. I still got it in my head. I can't get it out. Randy Krath. Oh yeah. Look at this. I got some NOS tubes from your friend Marty for the Ventura. He said the JJ6V6 was about the best you can find without spending a heap of cash. He's absolutely right. So if you guys don't know, let me plug my friend Marty. ARS tubes in Van Nuys, California. You can find them on the internet. Marty there's 3 guys I know in the country that are honest tube brokers. Marty is one of them. And Marty is also, as Randy can attest here, a real gentleman. Like if you call him, you're going to talk with him for a while. And he's just friendly. He wants to talk. And he wants to learn what you're into. And during the course of the conversation, you're going to be like, he might say, you know what I have? Hang on a second. Let me go look. And he'll run in the back room and go, oh, I have a box of those I bought 10 years ago. And he's very cool about pricing. It's really... So anyway, you can call Marty and use my name and he'll take care of you. He was one of our vendors at 65 all the time. He was just down the road. Our shop was on Van Owen in North Hollywood. He is on Van Owen in Van Nuys, California. As you can tell, a lot of original farmers in the San Fernando Valley were Dutch, right? Van Nuys, Van Owen. Very cool. Scotty Bratcher, hey, what's up? You guys know Scotty? The Shanks amp still has ARS EL34s. Yeah. Marty's the guy. He's got a tube tester that literally looks like the console on the Star Trek Enterprise. It's not one little box that you plug into the wall. It's literally a console that you sit around. It's bigger than my desk. And it's semicircle. And he can run every possible test on a tube you can imagine. And he's been doing it for like 50 years. So it's incredible. And I think this tube testing machine came from the Sylvania factory or something. It's very impressive. Next time I go there, I'll take a picture of it and share it with you guys. And plus Marty's just really nice. Like he's the kind of person you hang up the phone and go, man, I like doing business with people like that. He's so nice. And I can tell you in person, he's just as nice. I didn't have to go to his shop to get tubes, but I used to drive over there because I wanted to see Marty. He's so cool. Yeah, Randy's testifying here about Marty. Randy says, I'm on the East Coast and I had the tubes 2 days later. He was a gentleman and he said some kind things about Dan Boul. Well, he does lie a little bit. Yeah, no, kidding. Marty and I have been friends for 20 years, and I was introduced to him by Mike Franciscini, who I think has known him for almost 40 years. ARS has been in business a long time. This is a great question here. Mike Bledsoe. What's the best EL84 and EL34? So modern production, EL84 hands down the JJ. I mean, I do have these EIs. If you have an EL84 amp, we can talk. These are killer. I don't have anything to put them in right now. And you can see by the numbers on there, they're perfectly matched. If I can get this thing to focus on it. Perfectly matched. Those things sound like Telefunkins, which are, to me, really good. But the JJs are by far the best. I mean, no comparison, night and day. Big Mac and filet mignon, they're great. Not everybody uses them in their amps because they're more expensive. They last a long time. They can take voltage, and they sound. Every other EL484 to me sounds like this, and then you get to a JJ, and it sounds like this, right? EL34s, I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you. It changes. It's kind of a moving target. Like I was saying earlier, the JJs are very reliable, and they can take voltage. There's some the Chinese companies do special tube runs. You'll see them listed STR, special tube run. And they'll try to mimic stuff, but because of the nature of their factories and their equipment, which is really old, it's hard for them to sustain a long run of any tubes and keep them consistent. So they'll get them working just right, and they'll do a big old run of them and sell them all and then move on. Also, the market's kind of fickle. It's always, what tubes are cool this week? Well, I saw this guy playing them, so therefore I'm going to get them. It's just up to you. You get into personal preference. Are you talking about putting them in a Marshall, Mike? Is that what you're saying? There's some to try. I might not be the best source of information for you on that because I don't really buy new EL34s. And I haven't for, what year is this? 12, 13 years, maybe. I would see what guys like Dave Friedman are using. He makes a lot of amps, so they have to be predictable and reliable for him. See if you can nose around and ask what Dave's using in his. Dave's a really savvy guy. Dave's a very savvy guy who cares about his products. Regardless of what you think of him, he knows what he's doing. He really does know what he's doing. But I'm going to say, like, whether you like his amps or not, I like them. They're great. Not my style of amps, but they're good. I mean, I have fun when I play a Friedman. They're kind of a rowdy-ass, dirty amp. It's really fun. But Dave's an expert. He knows what he's doing. So whatever he's buying is probably pretty good. Sorry, I wish I had a better answer for you than that. Man, we're getting down to only like 10 minutes left already. Should we play a little guitar? You guys got some more questions? You want anybody interested in this amp? I could put some room sound on here. Let's see. No, that's not it. Oh, I can't see the aux box from up here. Hold on. Oh, here it is. We'll put some room sound on. Not much, is it? Let's go full tilt. That's too much. That doesn't sound right. How much does that amp weigh? Oh, this one's not much because it's 6v6s. I don't know, 15 pounds, 18 pounds, something like that. My sloppy Hendrix. And that's too much. That room sound's not very good on this, is it? No, this wattage is 22 watts, but it does have the master voltage on it. So you can run it down like about 4 or 5 watts. You can go below that, but there's really not much electricity going through the tube at that point, so it's hard, you know. sloppy. Golden rule, don't play Hendrix in public, right? Because you just look like a fool. But I'm just trying to give you some tones, right? Randy says, I'm becoming more interested in getting an aux. I tell you, my experience with these is great. There are some good, I don't know, there's some other, I need to look it up, so I don't want to just go through it now, but there's like 6 cabinet IRs here. They're really good. And then when you open up the software, you can pick microphones, move them around on the speaker. You can add reverb and echo that are UA effects. It's really powerful. All the studio guys I know here in town are using these, and Peter is using one every day. But I've got a couple studio guys in my neighborhood here. That's what they do, right? They make their living playing guitar on records and soundtracks and things like that. One guy, especially here on the corner, Kirk Helly, who lent me the aux that I was using before this one. This belongs to Sheryl Crow. It's just on loan. And Kirk, I would run down the street. He's literally like 6 houses down from me. I would have to run down the street and borrow it from him, come here, do the show, and then turn around and take it back. And he can't live without it. He loves it. No longer do I have to have a pile of preamps and a pile of microphones and spend half a day trying to get a good guitar sound. This is him talking, not me. So it's a great amp for recording. Peter says the same thing. He's like, and you've seen Peter's amp collection online. I'm sure he's got 3-band EQ, right, and a presence control mic. You can also bypass it. Right now I have it bypassed. There's a bump switch here. Oh, let me get this comment off so you can see it. Good question, BJ. I'll be right back with you. So there's master voltage here, presence, bass, mid, treble, just like a Marshall, right? And then you can bypass the whole tone stack if you want. But if I kick it in, you know, if I bypass it, you just get a little more. I'm the sloppiest guitar player ever. So, yeah, it's just a Marshall kind of setup, only with 6v6s. And each one of these channels is sort of like 3 different Marshalls. Not exactly, but close. The first channel is sort of JTM 45, kind of stout, not real dirty. Second channel is Plexi-ish. If you crank it up, it gets dirty. If you roll your guitar back, it's cleans up. Third channel is that modded 80s Marshall sound. So back to your question, BJ, any unique 65 pedals kicking around? I don't have any. Would there ever be a point in getting one of those pedals since I've already... Yeah, sure. They're very different. The only thing they have in common is we made our pedals with amp parts. We did not use little computer parts, to make pedals. It's overkill. You don't need parts that big and heavy for pedals, but the main reason I did it was to keep our guys working. The amp business is always really slow in the third quarter, and I love my guys. I wanted to make sure they're working, so we started making pedals. There's 3. There's the color boost, which is just a treble booster, like an old Rangemaster pedal. It's great. I find that pedal really useful. Plus, if you roll it back, it's Ticket to Ride. It's that Ticket to Ride sound. The other one is a color face, which is a fuzz face, right? Great pedal. I'm just sitting here noodling with Hendrix. It does that. Beautiful. And they have a lot of voices on them. And then the color bender is a Mark II tone bender, professional, which to me is my favorite dirt box ever. Forget about a Klon. Klons are great. Klons are like, make anything sound good. You know, you run a kazoo through it and you run your 59 Les Paul through it. They sound exactly the same. But the, you know, who did the demos for this were Pete Thorne. There's videos of him doing pedals, especially the color boost pedal. He did a video for it. It turned out really good. He loved it. I think he ended up buying it from us. So short answer, yeah, there's a whole lot of value to it. I do not have any to sell though. So sorry about that. Let's see. What does Mike say here? Check Reverb's color faces pop. Oh yeah. Yeah. The color face is great. If you're a Hendrix guy, it's right on. It does it. It's that, you know, Roger Mayer early fuzz face, germanium fuzz face. It's germanium. These pedals are all germanium. We quit making them because the supply of good germanium kind of just dried up. It was hard to find. We found a vendor that had literally, I think it was, if I remember correctly, 3,000 pieces of this really good germanium transistor. And we just bought them all. And then the pedals sold like crazy. I mean, we would make runs of, 30 or 40 a week, and they were gone by the time they were made. We never had any in stock sitting around. So people tend to hang on to those. It's a good sound. This is the channel 2, Mike. You're a Marshall guy, right? Which I know Who songs were not played on Marshalls. I know. It still sounds good. I don't know why. I've loved that chord progression since I was 12 years old. If I have nothing to play on a guitar, I sit around and go. When I was 12, that was more than 5 years ago. If I go up to the modded Marshall sound. Now this will really jump if you have a high output guitar. This is an Empire, Mike. This is a 65 Empire. It's a joke on the British Empire, right? The Empire. So 3 faces of the British Empire. And we changed the logo. We used to have a little symbol on there that looked kind of inappropriately British. Mike. Raymond says, you don't see those pedals on the used market. Yeah, people don't get rid of them. They keep them. They're on a lot of pedal boards. The big difference is we made them with amp parts, which makes them expensive. They were $200-300 pedals. Yeah, Mike. So see that picture up there behind me? That's my grandpa when he was a young man. That's my Dorian Gray. You're funny. You're very funny. I can't wait to see you. Yeah, you can get, a lot of the Who stuff was recorded mostly on a Gretsch Country Gentleman or a Strat. He was playing those Les Pauls in the 70s. Like when MTV came along, he was playing Les Pauls by then, but that's not, you look at like Monterey Pop and there's SG Juniors, like Les Paul Juniors, SGs with P90s in them. But he was a single coil guy, or low output guy. So, a lot of those Who records are recorded on a 310 Bandmaster with a Gretsch Country Gentleman, 6120. It's a great sound. You don't have to get very dirty. Let me go back to the middle channel here. And this is a Strat. It's not a high output guitar at all. Through a Marshall. This IR is a 60s Marshall cabinet, I think. But the key to Pete Townsend is you have to hit the guitar really hard. I mean, I play with a heavy pick, and I often bloody my index finger. You can see, look at that carbon buildup on my index finger right there from hitting strings. Like, these strings are dirty. And I'm getting my fingernails soiled. I personally love Pete's rhythm playing. He's one of my all-time favorite. Marshall Origin. You know, the Origin amps are great, Mike. They're really nice. They've moved on now. They're like the Studio Vintage. They've changed the name. But the Origin sound really good. I have a friend with a 50-watt, and my cousin Andy, who might be on here right now, he has a 50-watt Origin amp, and it sounds killer. And then another friend, Kevin. I'm just saying names. I'm not making up names. I'm just making up some white dude names. Hey, Kevin, Andy, Steve, Bill, Tom, Chip, what's up? My buddy Kevin has a 20-watt Origin, but it runs on EL34s. So it's really low voltage. They do not flood it with current like a producer. They just drop the voltage a lot. Anyway, it's a great sound with a Strat. It's nice. I like it. I was playing this a couple weeks ago, right? It's almost too dirty, isn't it? Let's go over to the JTM thing. Not dirty enough. Let's take the channel 2 and back it down a little bit. But yeah, you're right, Mike. The price is good on those amps. I think they're fun. They sound good. If you put old tubes in them, they sound right. They sound really good. So those songs were popular. I had a band in high school. I graduated from high school in 1983, so that means I'm over 35 years old. Wait a minute, that was 41 years ago. Shit, I blew it. Anyway, I had a band in high school, and sadly, I've outlived everyone in that band. But, boy, that's a scary thing to say. But, that's distracting. I apologize. We played all those songs, you know, Bryan Adams and the, Jenny, which I think I played here too much, but it's a great little song. I'm using 16. Randy, I always like 16 ohm tap on an amp better because physically the way a transformer is made, the top of the wind is the 16 ohm tap, the 8 ohm tap is about a third of the way down, and the 4 ohm tap is a little less than half of the way down. So when you don't use the 16 ohm tap, you're not using the whole transformer. You're not getting all the potential out of it. Which if your amp is making some ugly noises, it will hide that. You can smooth out a dirty, raspy sounding amp by going down to a lower impedance. If you have a really nice transformer and good stuff in the circuit, for me, I like to use the 16. I think it sounds better. Also, all British amps are 16 ohm amps. Marshall, Vox, all those places, they're 16 ohms. They had an 8 ohm tap you could use if you wanted to add an extension cabinet to it. But in their native one amp set of speakers, whether they're internal or external speakers, they're set up for 16 ohms. JTM 45 only had a 16 ohm tap. There's no 8 ohm tap. So, or 4 ohm tap. JTM 45 had one tap. That was it. 16 ohms. It's a good sound to me. That sounds right. That's the kind of sound I grew up making money with. And I put groceries on the table for over a decade with my guitar. So there was a sound I wanted, and that was it. You're welcome, Randy. Just like the tube. What is this? Just like the tubes in the 65s outliving the rest. Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah, unfortunate stuff. Two dudes I grew up with in my hometown of Columbia, Missouri. Unfortunate things. But, man, I'm the most grateful dude in the world. They were two absolute brothers, and my life was way better because of it. Raymond asks, if you want to make a go at a band when you're over 40, it's just a good comment. Get you 65 amps rig for the sophistication therein. Well, man, you are a man of style, elegance, and taste. I just have to tell you. Now I have that song in my head. Driving on this evening. Really good. Keith Scott was a guitar player on those records. And I saw him play up close and personal in Atlanta. My band warmed up for Bryan Adams. And I saw his rig, and it was a Plexi Marshall and an AC30 in tandem together. And he was just playing an old Strat. And, man, it just sounded good. I think he was playing a Sunburst Strat. Anyway, he came into our NAMM booth one year, and I said, oh, don't you remember me? He lied and said, oh, yeah, I remember you. Total bullshit. And we had a great conversation, but I finally got to tell him in person, like, man, your guitar sounded so good. I like your guitar. I like those records for your guitar sounds. I mean, Bryan Adams wrote some good songs, but good pop rock songs for sure. I think Cuts Like a Knife is a great song. Whether it's like your style or you're like, oh, it's not cool, man. Whatever. It's a good song. And the guitars are great on it, like really good. Keith's solos are just killer on there. There were like two guys before the strip metal guys hit. It was Keith Scott and then a guy named Neil Giraldo that used to play, well, he's married to Pat Benatar. He's now goes by the nickname Spider. But Neil Giraldo is his name. And I thought, man, those guys can play guitar. Jesus Christ, they're so good. I think they're both studio dudes who ended up in touring bands because they're so good. But anyway, well, guys, it's almost 10 after 1. We've been on the air for almost an hour and 10 minutes. I think I'm going to pack it up and go have some lunch with my daughter who is home from college. As much as I love you guys, I love my daughter more. Anyway, 65 Empire, it's been modded. The mods are effective across all 3 channels. And we're selling these amps to fund the new project that Mike and I are doing together. So if you'd love to help, message me and I'll tell you. I can't talk about pricing on here because the AI algorithms on social media will figure out that I'm selling something and want to charge me tax. Thank you, Raymond, for dropping by. Have a good day to you too, bud. Thank you. Yeah, we had a nice crowd today. And then it's kind of funny, for every person that shows up on the show, I get literally about 100 that view it afterwards. So for those of you on the recording, I'm sorry you couldn't make it. I look forward to seeing you some other time. If you have some questions you would like me to answer on the show, just message me. I'm on all social media as Dan Boul. No cryptic secret to it. Good to see you too, Randy. I'm glad you're well. Your foot switch should be showing up today, I think. It's a neat one too. I think you're going to like it. I found a new vendor. I think it's really good. So anyway, if you have something you'd like to talk about, here's the other thing. Don't forget to like the show, everybody. Thank you. Yeah, if you're on YouTube especially, It helps if you subscribe, all that nonsense. I hate it when people do that, but it helps. It really helps. Um, but anyway, so the other thing too is, like the world's going crazy right now. And as a lot of you guys know, I'm a lawyer's kid that went to law school, and I have a degree in political science and a degree in economics. And I grew up in a very, very political family. My dad, especially, used to work for the Attorney General of Missouri, who later went on to become a U.S. Senator named John Danforth. And my dad worked for John Danforth right out of law school with two guys you might have heard of. One was named Clarence Thomas, and the other one was John Ashcroft. You guys might know John Ashcroft as the Attorney General for George W. Bush. And of course, Clarence Thomas being on the Supreme Court. So I don't want to inject politics into this show at all. That's why I quit doing it before, because people would come on here and start saying horrible, crude, vulgar things, because that's the way our politics work now, apparently. I don't do that. I'm guilty of using some foul language once in a while, but it's only because I'm a crude person. It's not because I'm angry. It's only because I'm a low-class, tacky person. But anyway, I've got about 30 people who have said I should do a discussion of current events on another show. So if you like that idea, just let me know, message me. I'm not sure I want to do it because I know I'm opening up you're right. And that's right, Raymond. That's why I'm not going to do it. You're here for guitar and amp talk, and me too. I just have a lot of friends that write to me and say, what do you think of this? And because I come from a very political family and political education, people like to get my opinion on stuff. I'm not really an expert. I think I'm just above average, maybe. But I have a lot of my music business friends, especially, that always want to run things by me. So if I did it, it would be completely civilized. I'll just smoke anyone who starts to get abusive and rude. You're banned for life. Go to hell. But I won't do it during this. This will always be, how do you like the joke title, Strum and Tell? I had someone suggest that, so I put it on this week. Anyway, so if I do another thing, it will not overlap or interfere with this show, or I won't bring it up. I'm just not going to talk about it here. We're going to do guitars and amps and laugh and be musician brothers, and that's it. Anyway, so clearly this is not the crowd for that kind of discussion anyway. I'm just letting you know, it may happen. If you see it, I will make it clear that it's not the guitar show. I will make it clear that the guitar show is the guitar show. Even on this, as we get to the election, people are going to get crazy. And the discourse in this country has gone completely down to the sewer. And I don't do that. I don't participate in that. That's beneath me, and it's beneath you. Don't let anybody tell you different. Insulting people and using derogatory terms and abusing strangers on the internet is not acceptable. So I'm never going to do that, and it'll never happen here. So even if it starts to bleed into here, I will make sure whomever does these things is gone, permanently gone. Randy Kratz says, I live in a world, religio-political world, and it's tough to wade through that without becoming wounded. Yeah. I'm pretty thick-skinned about it. I don't get upset. When you study political science, it takes all the mystery out of everything. And usually when people get angry or abusive, it's because they're lacking information, or they don't feel confident or secure in their position, and that makes them lash out. Confident, secure, mature people don't need to interact like that. And it's okay to have different opinions. It's okay to like whomever you like. It's also okay to express your opinion. And because someone doesn't have the same opinion as you doesn't mean they're bad. Anyway, that's enough of that. I just thought I'd bring it up. So I just want to make sure that if you see that, know that it's not a guitar show. I will make it 100% clear that it is not the guitar show. I won't have a guitar and amp sitting here, all that stuff. But I literally got a bunch of people kind of asking. So fair warning. I'm not going to do it here, though. We're just going to have fun. Sorry if it's been listening. Try listening while working. What platform do we go to if you're selling something? I tried messaging you on Instagram, but I don't think you got it. Oh, I'll look and see. Facebook is the best way to do it. Mike Bledsoe, here you are again. Facebook is the best. My email address is Dan Boul. I'll type it out right here. Let me put this guitar up. Hold on one second. I'll type all this stuff out so you can see it. And it'll be on the recording as well. Amp off. And I'm going to get the Ron Ellis equipped guitar fixed by next week. I'm telling you, these pickups are amazing that he made. So my email address. Yeah, Ray, I just don't want it to overlap because this is nice here. I don't want to mess it up. And that's what made me stop doing the show before, where people just come in and, dude, there were some shows where I had to block like 10 people in 10 minutes and calling people names, cussing, yelling. Like, no, we don't do that. We're grown-ups here. Dan Boul, DanBoul at me.com. As in you and me. That's how old I am. My Apple address is at me.com, not iCloud and all that stuff. Let's see. Let me show this on the screen so you can see it. Dan Boul at me.com. So, Mark, you can reach out to me there if you like. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. If I missed your message, I apologize. It was an accident. I certainly did not mean to. I try not to ignore any messages, but I am flawed. I'm a human being. So be forgiving. I'm trying really hard. Anyway. Oh, you ditched Facebook. Yeah, that's cool. So just use my email address there and try on Instagram again. I'm on Instagram all the time. I'm not a big Instagram guy because I just get lost doom scrolling cool videos, stand-up comedians that are hilarious, guys that I love that I think are ridiculously funny. So I tend to forget where I am in space and time when I get on Instagram. So anyway, it would be nice, the country's going through like hell right now. And it's nice to speak with other people who are not insane, who are not aggressive, who are not vulgar. I'm not against cuss words. I'm not a prude. It's just that I don't know you. You don't know me. So sitting around here going, hey, F you, screw your mother. No, not doing that. I like dirty jokes. I like using cuss words for emphasis. Like, man, it is fucking hot outside today. Doesn't bother me. Doesn't offend me. If it offends you, I apologize for saying those words. I try not to cuss on this show because I personally don't care about cuss words. But I know they offend a lot of people, so I try to avoid them. I'm not perfect. I don't get it right all the time, but I try. So, it's what's the right way to say it? It's the quality of the interaction that needs to be. Oh, I got to answer this. Holy crap. John, hang on one second. I'll be right with you. All right, guys, I got to go. I love you. I mean it. And we'll see you next week. All right, take care. Once again, this Empire's for sale, so give me a buzz. Okay, love you. Bye.